Uju wants to become a nurse and make a living out of it. But her dreams were cut short after she met Ikenna on that fateful day. Uju is a beautiful and bright young woman who was so full of life and had big dreams. She comes from a poor family and lives with her uncle, as both her parents had passed on. Her younger sister, who looked up to her, was her only direct family member. Uju wants to become a nurse and make a living out of it, so that she can take care of herself and her sister. But her dreams were cut short after she met Ikenna on that fateful day, as she was returning to her house from the market. Ikenna is a well-to-do corporate guy who lives in the city and was visiting his mother when he bumped into Uju. She was beautiful with kind eyes, and he couldn't take his eyes off her. He stopped his car and tried to talk to her, but she was too scared that she increased her pace, trying to get away from the strange man. Ikenna later traced her home and told his mother that he would like to marry Uju. His mother, Ure, was against it at first, because she was hoping her son would marry a bright and rich girl from the city, and that would give her a bragging right amongst her peers. But after many persuasions from her son, she succumbed to the pressure and they visited Uju and her uncle. Uju vehemently refused to marry Ikenna, as she cited that she would like to go to school and become a nurse. She had been working so hard for the past 4 years after her secondary school graduation to save up money, and she wasn't going to give up on that dream. Ikenna proposed that he would get her enrolled in a nursing school in the city after their marriage, and her dream can still come true. Uju's uncle was excited when he heard that and promised them that Uju would change her mind. He put a lot of pressure on Uju to marry Ikenna. Why can't you marry the young man? Do you want us to die in poverty? Is this how you will pay me back for taking care of you and your sister since your parents died? Marry him and let him take care of us, he cried. Uju was under so much pressure and felt helpless, and after some days, she agreed to marry Ikenna, and the marriage ceremony was completed in a few weeks. When they returned to the big city where Ikenna lived, he was good to her at the beginning, and she felt hopeful. After a few weeks, Uju became pregnant with their first child. It wasn't an easy pregnancy, as it was her first child, but she is brave and was hoping to get the support she needs from her husband. But then, her worst nightmare began. Ikenna would come back home late, and sometimes drenched and reeking of alcohol. He neglected her when she needed help, and almost never wanted to be around her. He would complain about her changing looks, about her clothes, about her food. He even slept mostly in the guest room, as he said he can't stand how her body smells. Uju became insecure and tried her best to please her husband and make adjustments. But she cannot control her changing looks because she is heavily pregnant, and she gets tired easily and not able to clean the house as often as she normally would. She even suggested to bring her sister to the city to help, but Ikenna refused and stated that it cannot happen in his house, and so she had to manage all on her own with no assistance. After the birth of their child, she was hoping that things would get better, and she was particularly happy that she would gradually return to her normal looks that her husband liked, and she would be able to do the chores as she did before pregnancy. But things got worse. Ikenna would shout on her whenever the baby was crying, and he never assisted to take care of the baby. Uju was working round the clock, cleaning, making meals, taking care of the baby, taking care of her husband, she had little or no moment of rest. And just when she thought she had seen it all, things took a different turn entirely. As she was feeding their baby inside the room one night, her husband came in drunk and demanded for freshly made soup. Uju was too tired and sleepy, and she told him that she would make it first thing in the morning, and he should make do with the tasty jollof she had prepared. Ikenna landed a hot slap on her face, and she nearly dropped their baby from the shock. She cried all night, and by morning, Ikenna never apologized and left for work. Uju became Ikenna's punching bag. He would hit her at any slightest provocation, calling her names. "You dirty pig that I picked from the village. How dare you try to rub shoulders with me? You should worship me for bringing you out of that gutter," he would scream. Uju was too scared that she called her uncle on the phone and told him of what she was passing through in her marriage. Her uncle, who was scared that if she leaves the marriage, the benefits he's enjoying from Ikenna would cease, advised her to endure and stay in the marriage. "Marriage is full of ups and downs," he said. "Just try and obey your husband and pray for him. He will change soon." Ikenna seized Uju's phone that day, and she had no one else to turn to, and so she stayed and endured. She had asked her husband many times about going back for her studies as he promised, but he would shout on her and sometimes slap her, asking her to raise her children and stop chasing after silly dreams. Uju was filled with so much regret. "How did my life turn this bitter?" she would cry. One fateful day, as Uju was out buying foodstuff in the street market, she ran into Chima, her old classmate at community secondary school. Chima had moved to a different city with her maternal aunt suddenly, and they lost contact. "Uju, is this you?" he screamed as he got down from his car. Uju could not believe her eyes as she hugged her longtime friend. Uju was carrying her son, and Chima figured that she was already married, and that made him sad for a second. He secretly had a huge crush on Uju back in school, and reuniting with her to see she's already married kind of broke his heart, but he kept it together. He also noticed she was looking pale and had some bruises and scars on her arm and neck, and wondered how she sustained such injuries. Chima offered to buy them lunch, respectfully, while they catch up, and she agreed in a haste. She had been living in bondage and wouldn't mind a breath of fresh air. "How's life been?" Chima asked in excitement as they settled inside the restaurant. "Did you become a nurse like you always wanted?" Uju felt a sharp pain in her chest, and hot tears rolled down her cheeks. Chima was confused and hugged her tightly. He figured he might have triggered something, and so he said, "I'm sorry, Uju. Let's just discuss any topic you want. I won't ask any more questions." Uju wiped her tears and smiled at him. Chima is still as kind as she remembers. They ate and reminisced over their memories in school, and Uju lost track of time. Chima asked for her phone number to keep in touch, but she told him she doesn't have a phone. "Come on, Uju. You even had one old pocket phone you bought for yourself back in secondary school. What do you mean you don't have a phone?" he asked, thinking she was joking. When he noticed that she wasn't, that didn't sit well with him at all. "Call your phone number for me. I can cram it. I'll give you a call," Uju said, trying to lighten the mood. Chima called out his number and she crammed it. They hugged goodbye and went their separate ways. When Uju returned home, she was pounced upon by her husband Ikenna. "Where have you been? I've been home for the past 30 minutes, and why haven't you prepared my meal?" he asked as he pounded on her mercilessly. Uju sheltered her baby from the beating with her body and wept hot tears as the beating continued. Days passed, and Chima didn't hear from his friend Uju. He couldn't shake off all the things he noticed the last time he saw her, and it made him restless. There was no other way to reach her than to wait for her to call him. After 2 weeks, Chima received a call from an unsaved number, and it was Uju. "Help me, Chima," she sobbed. Chima asked for her location and rushed over to pick her up from the chemist shop where she went to buy pain relief drugs. He was dumbfounded to see her badly bruised, so he took her to his house. "What do I do, Chima? I have no degree, no job, no money, no helper, and I have a son to cater for. What do I do, Chima?" Uju cried out in agony. Chima consoled her and demanded to hear the full story. She told Chima the most horrific story he had ever heard. "You mean you've been going through all this by yourself? I am so sorry, my friend. You are not alone anymore, and I will make sure that animal pays for his crimes." Uju handed over a USB device to Chima. "This is evidence of this beating I received today. I gathered a lot of courage, borrowed the phone from the pharmacist to record this. I want to ruin this man for causing me so much pain," she sobbed bitterly. Chima immediately asked for her husband's detail, and to his surprise, Ikenna, Uju's husband, is a manager in his depot. He couldn't believe his eyes. Chima sent the tape he retrieved from Uju to the relevant authorities. He got a lawyer who drafted out a divorce and child support agreement. Chima also let her stay in a comfortable room in his house as she plans out the next steps to take. Ikenna was served with divorce papers. Relevant human rights authorities also charged him with domestic battery and child endangerment, as captured by the evidence Uju provided. Ikenna was sacked from his job, and he lost everything: his wife, his child, his job, and his reputation. Chima offered to train Uju through school, to go study nursing, but she declined. She was still traumatized and did not want to accept any free offers. She asked to be given a job instead, that she will work and save up money again. Chima helped her secure a job, and she started life afresh with her son. 1 year later, Uju enrolled in a nursing school. She was juggling work, school, and raising her son, but she was living life on her own terms. Chima couldn't hold his feelings much longer, and so he confessed love to Uju. Uju was beginning to feel his warmth as well, and she found herself being drawn to him. She accepted his feelings and suggested they take a slow pace, and he readily agreed. The next year, Chima married Uju and adopted her son as his son. Chima loved Uju so dearly and took good care of her. Uju was blessed with twin boys afterwards, and they lived in peace and in love forever. The lesson of the story is: love yourself enough and gather the courage you need to remove yourself from abusive relationships. There is a whole world out there for you to create your own happiness. This is the end of my story.